Nichols, who is Chief of Staff for the Greenway.
Thank you, Phil. And it's great to actually be in a room where we've got two of our board members. Dan Toscano is actually also one of our Greenway board members. So thank you guys. A couple of quick updates since we were last in to talk to you. First, you may be aware that the Greenway completed a major renovation of the North End Parks last year. So a pretty substantial renovation that in particular pulled out one of the plant beds on the surface road side of one of the two North End parks, completely redid the horticulture in that location, fixed a number of the broken bricks along the Freedom Trail path. But probably the big and most visible thing that hopefully you've all been enjoying since we completed the project was the swinging park benches on the pergola. The swinging park benches went in about 6 months ago, just before the end of the season, but I don't think I've been by them a single time since they went in where they weren't full, other than maybe one day last week when it was snowing, but even on the snow days, you'd be amazed at the folks that are enjoying them. So I really hope you have had an opportunity to do those. That was over a $200,000 project for the Conservancy. Much of it matched with a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and so in particular your state rep, Aaron Michaelwitz, was very important to us in securing that grant. And so again, money sort of well spent coming from the state to make sure that your park is well taken care of. A couple of other updates. First, excitingly, the carousel is back open for the year. So for those of you that have younger kids or grandkids, although I did a tour for 12 journalists from the United Kingdom yesterday, and they all wanted to ride the carousel. So maybe it's not just for the children, but certainly I know Phil's got one, enjoys riding the carousel. The carousel's back open just for weekends until actually this upcoming weekend, April 15th, and then it will be open 7 days a week all through until October, so all through the summer. A couple other quick updates. You may see that our first piece of public art for the year has been installed very, very close to the north end on the fence on what we call Parcel 12. Parcel 12 is that relatively ugly fenced off area between the North End Parks and the Carousel and the Armenian Heritage Park, where the ramps come back above ground and go below ground. In the past, we've done a photography competition around that parcel, and I know that's been particularly popular in the North End, especially the North End side, where there were sort of New England and Boston-themed photography that faced the North End, and then some more contemporary images that would face the other side of the city. This year, it's actually a 49-word long, 7-phrase textual piece by an artist out of Chicago named Matthew Kaufman. It's a series of 7 phrases in 4-foot-tall plastic yellow letters. It's been one of the more popular pieces we've done. You probably might see it on Instagram or just walking on through. But if you haven't had an opportunity yet to see it, check it out. It should be there throughout the course of 2016. This week, and the sort of most timely thing I wanted to come and brief you all on today, is we actually have a very short-term public art project coming to the North End Parks. The North End Parks are a place that, frankly, we hear from a lot of residents in the neighborhood that you'd like to see a little bit more programmed there, and yet it's somewhat tough for us given the lack of hardscape. Anytime you program out on the lawn directly, you run the risk of damaging the space for the many of you that enjoy the Greenway for its passive uses. And so it's a tough balance for us to be able to try and program it a little bit more in ways that the community is asking for, but at the same time keep up the quality of the parks, which I think many along the Greenway find to be sort of the nicest, certainly the most beautiful along the Greenway. And yet we found sort of maybe the right size of a public art project to bring to the North End later this week. It's called the Truth Booth. It's a touring exhibit going around the world. It's an inflatable room. Think of it about the size of maybe just the area I'm standing right here. And it's an inflatable thought bubble that says truth on the outside. And today and tomorrow it'll be at the Verb Hotel near Fenway Park. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday it'll be on the hardscape on the North End side of one of the two North End parks. And the whole point of the project, the public art project, is that you can walk in and record yourself for 2 minutes on virtually anything that you want to record. And it certainly just asks you sort of for your feelings on whatever it is that you want to talk about. And those feelings, when put together with all the Bostonians that participate over the course of the 5 days, will, like 6 months down the road, be edited into essentially Boston's truth. What Bostonians were feeling these 5 days. So thankfully it's good weather this week. And you'll have an opportunity to say really whatever it is. I don't know that necessarily every single spoken submission will be used, but it's a piece out of a San Francisco-based collaborative that's moving around the world. And so they've been to Dublin, they've been to Italy, they've been to Afghanistan, and now they're sort of touring through the United States. And so will be kind of incredibly interesting to see at the end of the project what Bostonians feel. So I think, and this is our shortest term public art project probably that we've done, and so I think it's particularly responsive, again, to not over-programming the North End parks, which I think a lot of people really enjoy for their passive use, but having a little something different that'll be here for 3 days this week. And so it'll be open from noon to 7 p.m. each of 3 days this week, right out on the hardscape. The last thing that I want to talk about today is sort of the rest of the Greenway calendar for this season. And very briefly, I would say we have 6 public art installations that'll be going in for a longer period of time than the Truth Booth. Actually there will be one in the North End and then going all the way down into Chinatown. The one in the North End as well as one in the Leather District are both the product of a local artist competition we did. So we called for RFPs from Massachusetts-based artists. I think we're an organization that never wanted to be subject to the criticism that only the artists that we award to come onto the Greenway are non-local or from out of state. I think that criticism would probably even be harder to make, given that last year the biggest thing we ever did on the Greenway, the Janet Eppelman, was from a local artist who lives in Brookline, Massachusetts. And yet this year we decided to very specifically engage artists from the state of Massachusetts who are interested in doing site-specific pieces along the Greenway. One will be in the Leather District. There'll be one actually in front of the Tunnel Administration Building. So some of you may remember that myself and my boss, Jesse, our executive director, came to you all last year and said that MassDOT, the state, was asking us to take on 13 new parcels of land along the Greenway, 7 of which in the North End, 6 of which down closer to Chinatown and the Leather District. When I say parcels of land, I'm talking very small, skinny, almost like traffic islands that are kind of splintered along the outside of the Greenway. So not where inside the sidewalks as you would know the Greenway today, but outside the sidewalks, little slivers of land, including where the lawn for the Tunnel Administration Building, where the North Bennett Street School is. And so that rather large lawn, if you've noticed, it started getting a little better landscape this year with some improved plantings. We took it over last July 1st. And we have a public art project that will be going up there in probably the next month, and we'll be there for about 6 months. And so in addition to those 2 pieces, the only other one I'll talk about right now is that our biggest piece of the year will be by world-renowned artist Ai Weiwei. Some of you may be familiar with his work. It's currently on display at the Museum of Fine Arts in a large exhibit called Megacities Asia. The Greenway is bringing his traveling work called Circle of Animals Zodiac Heads. They are 12 large bronze animal head sculptures that will sit around our Rings fountain in the Wharf District Parks. And so it's a long backstory. I guess the most I'll tell you is that this was a piece that was around a fountain in China, stolen many, many hundreds of years ago, and not returned to the people of China. And so the artist Ai Weiwei created essentially a replica piece to devalue the price of the existing piece that wasn't being returned to the Chinese, and is traveling the world with the current set of sculptures. Just most recently, before coming to the Greenway, these pieces were at the Louvre in in Paris. Prior to that, they started their tour at the Pulitzer Fountain in New York and have been moving their way around the world. So they will be available to be viewed at the Greenway from late April through mid-October around our Rings fountain, so about a 5-minute walk from the North End. So with that, I think that's probably a lot of information given all that you have in front of you today, but I am happy to answer any questions about the Greenway activities that you may have.
Council? Anybody in the audience have a question for us?
You guys did a great job. Really
Appreciate
great
it.
job.
We do appreciate the photographs. I know we got a lot of positive response because nobody liked the chain link looking at it, so that was great. And we're looking forward to the Zodiac heads carrying all the kids.
We're confident the kids are going to love the Zodiac heads. We've only good feedback elsewhere.
Michael Victor is a
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question. The question is, to whom should I be in communication with? To a current problem that came up last summer. I live in the Mercantile Building. I was about to listen to a live concert with Boston Symphony Orchestra when the noise from a salsa event, which I think was sponsored by the Celebrity Series, which was opposite Rhodes Wharf, a half a mile away from the Mercantile Building, was so loud that I could not hear Boston Symphony Orchestra that night. The only email address I had was Jesse's, which I emailed. And of course, it was too late to do anything by the time it was addressed.
Sure.
How can I avert this? That is.
I'll say 2 things in response too. First, I'll give you my card, which has my cell phone on it.
Okay.
And I can leave a couple with the council too, in case there's anybody else that might need it. So I'm available to be called anytime, day or night, for a problem like that. The other thing I would say is, and this may not come out exactly how I mean it, but in a city that is as sort of closely congested and as dense as we are, I think this is probably a problem that gets run into a lot. Those set of shows for us were probably, with the exception of the Eckelman piece, the most wildly successful thing we did on the Greenway all of last year. And we probably had, to your point, 2 or 3 noise complaints about the directions of the speakers. But it actually was probably the single event we got the most positive emails about in the time that I've been at the Greenway. And so it is a balancing act, and I don't think any neighbor in any part of the city should have to feel like an event that's happening on the Greenway is disenfranchising their ability to enjoy something either in their own home or in another part of the city.
Half mile away.
Right, and so that was in particular also a show that, when, the noise ordinances as it relates to Boston, you can go until 11 o'clock at night. I think the latest that any of those ever went was 7:45. So we made a real effort, maybe 8 o'clock, we made a real effort to have those end earlier than other events.
DSO concerts start at 10 minutes past 8.
Okay.
It interfered, prevented my listening to the concert on the radio.
Well, on behalf of the Greenway, then I apologize for that. I think we certainly did our best to try and provide an event that for the several thousand that turned up that week was something that they really enjoyed. That event is not itself returning this year. It will probably return in 2017, and we'll be very mindful in the direction in which the speakers are pointed.
To whom you shall
Boston
mind.
Calling too.
That one right there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, Boston Calling from Government Center, I hear them blocks away too. That is, what are you gonna do?
I live next to Fenway Park, so I hear a little Springsteen on occasion. But
Thank you very much.
for free.
Do we have any other questions? All right, thanks, Mike, for coming down.
Thanks, everybody.